Hello, lifers. Welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. I am your host, Eric Aroka. I keep looking over there because my dog was distracting me. Okay, here we go. Hey, we are already on another episode. It just seems like the episodes get quicker and quicker, like they're coming faster and faster. I had actually planned on this episode being our first guest on the podcast. But a few things happened along the way. So number one thing that happened was I kept hearing from people about, well, let me just put it to you this way. People kept complaining about what they do. And if you've been following me on social media, I've been posting all week about loving what you do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I promise you, pinky swear, that our very first guest on the podcast, on the Live the Life podcast, will be happening next episode. So I am super excited about it. In fact, we recorded the episode last night. So it is fresh on my mind. I can't wait till you guys meet our first guest. So, by way of introduction, our first guest on the Live the Life podcast will be none other than my dear friend, Cheryl Knowlton. She is a CSP, which means she is a certified speaking professional. It is a designation given by the National Speakers Association. Let me tell you a little bit about Cheryl. She is a keynote speaker, CEO of the Authenticity Activator. She is out there helping leaders and speakers become master communicators. She is a member of the ICF Executive Coach. She is a 3-time author, and she is the host of the top 10 global podcast, Speaker Reel, of which, I might add, I have been a guest, and I believe the only guest 3 times. So, pretty exciting, right? You guys are going to love her. Now, I am going to warn you now, so don't comment next week. Don't tell me. Just listen. I'm warning you now. Before you listen to the podcast or the episode with Cheryl, you need to be prepared. Because this woman is going to bring it. She brings energy. Okay, we recorded the episode last night. I've been prepping for a week to talk to her. Okay? Not because I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but because I have to match her energy levels. Okay? Every time I'm around her, I have to prepare to get my energy levels up. So, hey, take a shot of, what is it? 5-hour energy, get some caffeine going, have a Coke Zero, drink some coffee, whatever you've got to do. Just have your energy levels up there, okay? She really is going to bring it. You guys are going to love the episode. She did an amazing job, as I expected that she would. And we are getting ready to record several other guests for the podcast for future episodes. So stay tuned for that. We're really excited about what we're bringing to the podcast and the quality of guests that we are bringing to the podcast. So I'm really excited about that, and just something great to look forward to. So since we're going to be talking about not counting down and talking more about showing up, I want to share a story. So I'm going to share a story with you about showing up. And this happened when I was in 6th grade. And it was in Mrs. Chapman's class. So Mrs. Chapman, my 6th grade teacher, she pulled me aside one day, had me sit on a very comfortable beanbag chair. It was awesome. It was one of those really big ones back in the 80s. And she had it right up next to her desk. So that's where we sat when she wanted to talk to us. And she gave me a book and says, hey, I need to do a reading assessment for you. So I was like, okay. So I'm sitting in the beanbag chair, and she gives me the book, and she says, okay, go ahead and turn it to page 1 and just start reading. And I started reading, and I was not reading well. Like, it was pretty atrocious. She also did a comprehension assessment along with the reading, and that was probably worse than the reading itself, believe it or not. And she tried to graph it on her paper. And back in the 80s, because there were no personal computers yet, back in the 80s, she had just this graph paper, and it would just kind of fold out, had my name on, my name and everything, and the grade, and blah, 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 the date. And then she would graph, and she would chart my my score. And it was so far to the left. In other words, it was such a negative score. She actually didn't have room on the far side of the sheet in order for her to record my score. So it was pretty bad. So I'm in 6th grade, and I think I'm not even reading at a 1st grade level. It was really, really embarrassing. It was very, very bad. I knew it, but I had a greater problem. I couldn't read in 2 languages. That's pretty bad. So Mrs. Chapman started reading a book. She started reading The Outsiders to us by S.E. Hinton. And this is an American classic as far as I'm concerned. If you have not read The Outsiders, I highly recommend it. And she started reading The Outsiders to us right before we would go out to recess in the morning. Now, if you are a 6th grade teacher, I do not recommend that you read or that you make your kids read The Outsiders, because just like in the movie, we played out every scene. Okay, we played out the book. She would read it, and then we would go outside at recess, and we would play out exactly what we were reading about. And the room was quickly divided into 2 factions. There were the greasers and the socialists. And I'll let you guess which one you think, what group I belong to. Go ahead, put it down in the comments if you want. But I will tell you, so you're not keeping you in suspense. I was a greaser. Probably not a huge surprise. It's probably more of a surprise that I'm a total soch now. So at least my kids say that I'm a total soch. And that's okay. I'm good with that. So we read this book, and it was awesome. And for the first time, when she read the book, I had this little movie going on in my head, and I could see the characters. I could see what they looked like. I was in control. My mind was in control of the characters. My mind was in control of the colors that I saw in my own little personal movie. It was awesome. It was the first time that I realized that there's a great deal of power when it comes to reading. It made me want to learn how to read even more, but it also frustrated me even more because I just couldn't read. I basically grew up through school just knowing that I was either lazy or stupid, because that's what I was told. I was either lazy or stupid. I don't really think that I was stupid. Lazy, maybe a little bit. Okay, maybe a little. Okay, maybe a lot. But still, nonetheless, I started to believe that that message or those messages, that's who I was. Well, Mrs. Chapman, to her credit, had a great deal of passion, purpose, and believe me, a great deal of perseverance through my 6th grade year. She showed up the next day. She showed up the next day with a comic book, because we had had a conversation about superheroes and if I liked Captain America or Spider-Man, and I said, yeah, I like Spider-Man and Captain America. I did not like Superman. I mean, the dude wears a cape. I don't know. That's all I can say about that. But she showed up and handed me a comic book, much like this one, like this Captain America one. And She opened it up and handed it to me and said, I don't want you to worry about reading the words. All I want you to do is what we call picture recognition. So she would open it up, she would point to the pictures, and she would tell me, just tell me what you think is going on in this story. And so I would look at all the pictures and I would, formulate this idea of what was going on in the comic book. And, on some of the pictures, I nailed it. Some of them, I was close. Some of them, I was like, oh, you're not even close. But for the most part, I could get the idea of what was happening. And that's all I did. I'll bet I did that for like a month, where I was just looking at pictures. And it made me feel good because it really did make me feel like I was reading. And then we started, learning the letters and learning the sounds. And I'm going to be very honest with you guys. To this day, I don't know all of my sounds. I learned to read by memorization. I memorized words. I was very good at memorizing words, and they stuck with me. And whenever I saw them, I knew what they were. And so that's pretty much how I learned to read. By the end of 6th grade, I was reading at about a 2nd grade level, so I hadn't improved too much, but I could read a little bit. I mean, there's advanced 2nd graders that read probably at a 4th or even 5th grade level. I wasn't even reading at my level, but I was reading a little bit, so I felt good about that. The important part of this story is Mrs. Chapman showed up. She showed up every day. She showed up every day to help me learn how to read. Now, I would love to tell you that I was one of 5 kids in her class and she had all this time to devote to me, but that just isn't the case. I was one of 25 to 28, if not 30 kids in her class. I mean, I grew up in Utah, so there's a lot of kids in your class. And I wasn't the only kid who had issues. I wasn't the only kid that she needed to devote time to help out. But she showed up every single day for every single one of us. And I am convinced that if she had the attitude of just counting down days till her next day off or until summer comes, I would not be talking today to you about Mrs. Chapman. She had a huge impact in my life. She introduced me to the power of reading. Now, I'm going to tell you something very, very sad. From 7th grade to 12th grade, I never again, ever encountered another Mrs. Chapman. Ever. I never again encountered a teacher that gave a fat frog's ass about my academic, about me being able to learn, about me being able to read. My 12th grade year, I was reading at a 3rd grade level. It's pretty sad. There was a whole bunch of teachers who never showed up. There was a whole bunch of teachers who were just counting down the days. Counting down the days to their retirement. Counting down the days till summer. Counting down the days to whatever, instead of showing up. But Mrs. Chapman showed up every single day. She brought her passion for teaching, her purpose for teaching, and she persevered. We had many days that were not easy. We had a lot of hard days, but she never gave up. You see behind me, right? You see behind me? Behind me is 427 books that I have read every single one of those books. I I am a lover of books today because of Mrs. Chapman, because she never gave up. Now, come to find out, in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, come to find out I had pretty severe dyslexia. Now, back in the 80s, you didn't go to the doctor and get diagnosed with dyslexia. You got diagnosed with lazy and stupid. That was about it. Okay? So that was my diagnosis. Hey, when I found out I had dyslexia, it was one of the greatest moments of my life because I knew that I wasn't lazy, and more importantly, I knew that I wasn't stupid. I just simply had something that I needed to learn about and learn how to conquer it, learn how to get over it. And I think I have. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's all gone and everything is great, because it's not. I still struggle to read out loud. In public settings, I try not to read out loud. Whenever you've seen me read you something here on the podcast, it's because I've practiced it over and over again so I don't sound like a blithering idiot. It takes me a while to read a book. There are many times where I have to go over a sentence 5-6 times to understand what that sentence says or what that paragraph says. Make sure that I can comprehend where the story is going or what the author is wanting me to learn in their book. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's the power of showing up. It wasn't immediate. The transformation from me not being able to read to owning 427 books, did I say, was not immediate. It took years and years, decades in order for that to happen. But it happened. And it happened because one person showed up. So whether you're a teacher or whatever profession it is you're doing, whatever it is you're doing right now, I don't care if you're a student, if you're bagging groceries somewhere, if you're pumping gas, if you have a blue collar job, a white collar job, whatever it is you do, find passion, purpose, and perseverance and simply show up. Show up with that passion, purpose, and perseverance. And get ready to not only change and impact your own life, but be ready because you're going to change and impact other people's lives for good. That's a great way to live the life. I want that for you guys. I want you guys to live the life to its fullest. And that's a great way to do it. I love Mrs. Chapman. In fact, my first book, my book From Burnout to Brilliance, Reigniting Passion and Purpose for Teaching Through Perseverance, was dedicated to Mrs. Chapman. So as you open the book, it says dedicated to my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Chapman. So Mrs. Chapman, she is no longer with us, but wow. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for caring enough about me and the countless of other kids. Thank you for showing up and living the life. I hope you guys loved that story. And hey, there's many more to come on the podcast. All right. So with that kind of out of the way, I'm going to pull up a couple of things here. So, like I mentioned, I've been just bombarded with people complaining about what they do. And to be honest, this is more of a rant session for me than anything else. Because I got to get it out. If I keep it in any longer, I don't know. I got to get it out. So, here we go. For those of you who don't know, so as you know, as you guys all know, I am a speaker, corporate trainer. I do quite a bit of work in the public speaking arena. One of the things that I do to kind of plug in some hours in between events is I decided this year to become a substitute teacher. That's right, I'm crazy. I became a substitute teacher. Now, in large part because I just wrote the book, From Burnout to Brilliance, helping teachers to reignite their passion and purpose for teaching through perseverance. Whew, how's that for a title? So a lot of it was in conjunction because I was doing the book, I was writing the book, getting ready to release the book, and it was great research, and really it just helped me stay on top of kind of what teachers are going through today in the education community, and so it was great. And since I've already released the book, as of a couple of months ago, it's available on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for you guys. And, I just figured just keep doing it. I love building relationships with educators and trying to help them in any way that I can. And you know what? To be honest, sometimes our educators do need some additional support. They do need support obviously they need support from parents. They need support from their administrators. They need support from their fellow colleagues. They need support from the greater community, wherever their school is. And so this was just my way of showing them a little love, showing them a little bit of support, and helping them in their calling in life and becoming teachers. So it's been a great, great experience. I gotta tell you too that I was substituting. My first substitute job was one that I was just dreading, but one that I just came to love. I was substitute teaching in a pre-kindergarten class. That's right, 4-year-olds. Now, me and little kids are just not a good mix, okay? I don't have the patience for it. I barely had the patience for my own kids when they were really young. And, but hey, I did it. And, so I was really scared. Like I was physically scared to do this. But it has become an extremely rewarding experience. I've been loving it. And it's just been very, very rewarding. And it's really nice too that on the flip side of that, I'm helping to support the local teachers at my elementary school. I'm going to be at a middle school on Thursday. So it's a lot of fun, and it allows me an opportunity to serve where I can. So certainly not doing it for the money because there's just really not much money to be had. But it's been a great experience. So a little bit about that for you as a background. So having said that, I've been pretty well surrounded by teachers throughout the week. Really just, I don't know if they mean to complain, but there's just sure seems to be a lot of whining and complaining going around. And a lot of it is counting down, right? They're counting down to the next day off, to the next half day. They're counting down to the end of the school year. And it got me to thinking, we need to stop counting down and start showing up. Really, we need to stop counting down and start showing up. I'm not sure why a teacher would want to count down for summer, or professionals, right, for the weekend to arrive, and then just spend whatever time complaining about how short the summer was, or spending time complaining about how short the weekend was. So to me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It makes no sense to me to complain about, oh my gosh, it's Monday, it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, this week is just dragging on, I can't wait till the weekend. And then the thing that you've been waiting for to finally arrives, and then you spend 2 days complaining about how short it was. That does not make any sense. That is not living the life. That is living a prison sentence to me. So we need to start living the life we've always imagined. And we do that by shifting our thoughts. It's got to be a paradigm shift. We have to stop counting down and start showing up. All right. Don't be eager to escape what you love to do. And I think that's a little bit of what's happening here. We talked several episodes ago about passion and about how you might not be involved in a job right now that you are truly, truly passionate about, right? You didn't have dreams about doing the job that you're doing right now, but you've got to find elements, you've got to find pieces about what you're doing right now that you love about. So you got to find something that you love about your job. I don't care if you're a teacher, if you're a plumber, if you're a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, a supermarket cashier. I don't care what it is you do, but you've got to find something that you love about it. And if you do, then you can find purpose. I was thinking today, I have never met a hospice nurse who was counting down the days. Now, if anyone is going to count down days, it's probably a hospice nurse, because their client is going to come to an end. Like, their client is literally going to expire. But notice that even though that day, that final moment is coming, hospice nurses don't count down to that. They instead show up every day for that patient, to take care of them, to make sure that they're having quality of life all the way up until the end, that they feel loved, that they feel cared for. I think that's what we need to do. That's how we need to show up, instead of just counting down days. Let's see, what else did I want to say about that? Passion isn't just having inspiration. I think it's a combination, like we talked before, of inspiration and that fanatic discipline. If you're constantly wishing away your time, maybe it's time that you need to just rethink how you're showing up. Maybe you need to rethink what you're doing. Do something different, perhaps. Or perhaps just show up. Show up in the right frame of mind. Show up with a purpose. Show up with perseverance. Show up with a little bit more fire in your belly, with a little bit more passion. And I think that as we do that, we will stop counting down days. I ran into this all the time, even in my sales career. Colleagues always counting down. Couldn't wait till the next vacation. Couldn't wait till the summer hit, or whatever event was going on. Right? We really do have to stop counting down. Start counting up. Think about the impact that you can have. Think about the growth that you can achieve. Think about the lives that you can change because you are showing up. And I think that's the paradigm shift, is we need to stop thinking so much about ourselves and start thinking about others. Start thinking about the growth that other people can achieve, not just your own personal growth, but the growth that others will achieve because you show up. Think about the impact that you make on other people's lives. Think about how their lives are going to change, how you can be a blessing in someone else's life simply because you showed up. I think that we really are surrounded by people who show up all the time. And I think we need to acknowledge it. I think we need to celebrate it. I think we need to embrace it. I think that we need to hold on to it. Hold on to those people. Look to them as a great source of example, as a great source of how we should be, how we should be carrying on, how we should be showing up. That's what this podcast is all about. That's why I was so excited to do this podcast, because I really do want to give back to all of you, to show you that there is a better way. Listen, my life is by no means perfect. You can ask Sophie here behind the camera. You could ask any of my kids. You can ask my wife. You can ask anybody that's ever known me that I am not the perfect guy. I acknowledge that. I own it. It is what it is. But I learned a long time ago that we need to show up, that you need to love what you do. When you show up and you love what you do, other people will take notice. Those people that you're trying to have an impact on, they will notice you. You will become an important person in their life. You will become, I don't know, maybe a role model or someone that they can just look up to if you show up. It has to start somewhere. And I really believe that we can do this together. That we can receive inspiration from each other, from the stories that we share, from the experiences that we have, and show up in a better way, and show up to help other people. And I think the more we focus on other people, the more that we will grow, the more development and growth we will have in our own personal lives. So, just something to be thinking about as we continue moving on down the line here. After Cheryl's podcast, after Cheryl's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about the principles of living the life you've always imagined. And you're going to see how everything that we've talked about so far in these 6 weeks about passion, purpose, and perseverance, how it's just an added piece to the principles that we're going to discuss when we talk about living the life you've always imagined. So I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to share some incredible stories with you guys, some incredible guests. And I just want you to remember to stop counting down and start showing up so that you can live the life.